Hello everyone. In today's video I'd like to show you how to get started with Azure IoT Edge. I will briefly explain what IoT Edge is, what components it contains, and what its benefits are. I will then run through two demos on using IoT Edge. The first demo will be with a simulated IoT Edge device, and the second demo will use an actual physical device. Let's get started. Azure IoT Edge is Microsoft's fully managed service built on Azure IoT Hub. Let's first review what the overall process is for building IoT solutions. The diagram shown splits into three different areas: Things, Insights, and Actions. The Things section defines the IoT devices and what they can do. This includes sending data to and from the cloud, as well as provisioning and managing devices. The Insights section defines what is done with the device data. This includes where the data is stored, how the incoming data is processed, and any calculations that may need to be performed against this data. The Actions section defines the business processes that can be leveraged against the insights gathered from the data. This can include applying Azure machine learning against the data or integrating a logic app to perform some business function based on the data. Microsoft provides tools and technologies to support this process, including Azure IoT Hub and the Azure IoT Device Provisioning Service. Adding Azure IoT Edge functionality to the process changes how things are accomplished in the overall process. Quote-unquote normal IoT devices are designed to send their raw data to the cloud via Azure IoT Hub, and then there are cloud services like Stream Analytics or machine learning that perform calculations to process insights on that data. IoT devices that can function as IoT Edge devices are able to run the services that perform these calculations right on the device so that the processing is brought to the edge of the environment. This allows the insights against the device data to be generated on the device, providing faster response times and reduced bandwidth costs, as only the calculated insights on the data can be sent to the cloud instead of all the raw data. Azure IoT Edge has three components: modules, the runtime, and the cloud interface. IoT Edge modules are the Azure services or third-party services that run on the device. These execute in containers. You are also able to write your own code and deploy it to an IoT Edge device if you so choose. The important point to remember here is that the code runs locally on the device instead of in the cloud. For example, you can deploy a module for Azure Machine Learning on your Edge device, which can then run locally and perform whatever processing you need it to do before it sends any data to the cloud. The IoT Edge runtime is required to run on each Edge device and is responsible for managing all the modules running on the device. It also reports module health to the cloud and manages any communication between other devices and between itself and the cloud. Finally, it is responsible for maintaining security on the device. The cloud interface provides the ability to manage the life cycle of your Edge devices from a central location. Device workloads can be created, configured, and deployed to one or more of your Edge devices. A workload is defined as one or more modules that would be deployed to a number of Edge devices. You can also monitor your devices for any errors encountered or if they are not behaving properly. For our first demo, I will be going through the steps to set up a virtual machine that simulates an IoT Edge device. Once the VM is created, I will show you how to configure it to be registered to an IoT Edge device in the Azure portal. And lastly, I will deploy a module from the Azure Marketplace to the Edge device, which will simulate temperature and pressure data and send that data to the cloud. Okay, there are a couple of prerequisites for this demo. First off, you will need an Azure subscription. Once you sign up for one, navigate to the Azure portal and create a resource group. Here you can see I've created my resource group with the name IoT Edge Resources. This is where we will create the resources for this demo. The other prerequisite is you need to have installed the Azure IoT extension for the Azure Cloud Shell. You can start up an instance of the shell by clicking this icon in the upper right. Once the shell window displays and authenticates you to Azure, enter the following command to install the Azure IoT extension. As you can see, I've already installed it beforehand, so it's already complete. The first step in our demo is to set up our virtual machine that will be simulating our IoT Edge device. You can either create a Linux-based VM or a Windows-based VM. I will be creating a Linux-based VM. There are two ways to create a VM in Azure. The first way would be to manually create it using the Azure portal. This will give you a standard VM with no additional components installed. Since we need the Azure IoT Edge runtime installed, that would have to be installed afterwards. The other way to create a VM is to use the Azure Cloud Shell. I like this way because it's one command to enter, and I can specify that the Azure IoT Edge runtime will be installed when creating the VM. Enter the following commands in your instance of the Cloud Shell. The first command is to accept the terms for the VM image you are about to create. The second command is the actual command to create the VM image, and also specifying that the IoT Edge runtime be installed. Note that we are also specifying the admin username of Azure user and that SSH keys should be generated and saved. These keys will be used for connecting to the VM later. It takes a few minutes to create the VM, so I will pause the video until the VM has been created. Okay, now that the VM has been created successfully, we can move on to the next step. The next step is to create an instance of Azure IoT Hub and register an IoT Edge device. Again, we could create the IoT Hub and Edge device using the Azure portal, but I'm going to use the Cloud Shell again. Enter the following command to create the IoT Hub. I will call my hub IoT Edge Hub 2020. And give it a resource group of IoT Edge resources. I'm creating the free version of IoT Hub since I don't already have one instantiated in my subscription. Once my hub is created, I need to register an IoT Edge device. I can either navigate to the IoT Edge page and click on the Add an IoT Edge device button to manually create an IoT Edge device, or I can use the Cloud Shell. Enter the following command in the shell and make sure that you use your IoT Hub name and choose a device name that's appropriate for your situation. I will call my device IoT Edge Device 1. Please note the Edge-enabled command line switch. This switch instructs the system to register the device as an IoT Edge device. Once it's done, you can hit the refresh page here, and you can see your device now is registered. Now that we have our IoT Hub created and our Edge device registered, we need to configure our VM to point to the registered Edge device. Make sure you navigate to the Edge device in the Azure portal and copy the primary connection string into the clipboard. We can configure our simulated IoT Edge device without having to log into the VM. This is done by entering the following command in our Cloud Shell. Please note the resource group name and our VM name and use the proper values. You will also need to copy the device connection string you have in the clipboard to the command. Press Enter to run the command. This will tell the IoT Edge device, our VM, to connect to the registered device when communicating with the cloud. The first thing we need to verify on our Edge device is that the IoT Edge security daemon is running. Enter the following command. You should see the results and it should say active running. We now need to view the running modules on the VM. At this point, we should only have the Edge agent running. Enter this command to view the running modules. As you can see, we only have the Edge agent running, which is correct. The final step in this demo is to deploy an IoT Edge module to our simulated device. Actually, this isn't done on the device itself, it's done in the Azure portal. Navigate to your registered device and click on the Set Modules button. This will display a page that allows us to specify what modules we want deployed on our device. The IoT Edge runtime on the device will query the portal to see if there are any modules to download and deploy, and will do that if it sees any. Click on the Add button and select Marketplace Module in the drop-down. This will open a dialog allowing us to search the Azure Marketplace for a module. Enter Simulated Temperature Sensor and select the result when it appears. Click on the Routes button to proceed. We also need to configure the routes, which tells the module where to send the messages to. In our demo, we just want all the messages to be sent to IoT Hub, which is $upstream, so we can leave the default route as is. Click on Review and Create to proceed. You can review the JSON of the module being deployed and click Create to deploy this module. After a couple of minutes, the module should be deployed, and you can see that by refreshing the page and verifying that it says running under runtime status. We can view our simulated data from our IoT Edge device in two places. The first is in our VM. If we enter the following command, this should show us the telemetry that it's sending to IoT Hub. And as you can see, it's sending the messages with this JSON body, so you can see temperature and pressure values being sent. The other area that you can check to see the messages coming in is by looking at the overview page on our IoT Hub itself. If you scroll down, you can see the number of messages here, and you can see that the graphs are showing that messages are being received. The second demo is very similar to the first, but instead of creating a VM to simulate the IoT Edge device, we will be using a real device. You can do this with any device that supports IoT Edge. We will be using a Raspberry Pi 4 for this demo. I have already taken the liberty of installing the latest Raspbian operating system on the Pi, so if you want to follow along, you will need to do this first. Okay, once we have our Raspberry Pi set up, we need to SSH into it and install the runtime for containers, as well as the Azure IoT Edge runtime. I'm using PuTTY for this, so I have previously copied my public and private SSH keys locally so I can use PuTTygen to create a PPK file and be able to SSH into my device. So I'm logging in as Pi. Once I'm logged in, the first thing I need to do is make sure I have the latest version of the operating system. This is done by running the following command. Once completed, I then need to install the container runtime in Azure IoT Edge runtime. Moby is the recommended container runtime, so to install that, run the following command. And as you can see, it's already been installed, so it's already up to date. Once installed, you can also install the optional Mobi CLI, which can be helpful for your development environment. And again, that's been installed previously, so there's nothing to update. Next thing to install is the Azure IoT Edge runtime, which includes the security daemon. Run the following command. Since I've already installed it, it says that it's up to date. Once the security daemon is installed, you need to configure the device with the IoT Edge device connection string from the Azure portal. Navigate to your IoT Edge device and copy the primary connection string into the clipboard. So in our case, I go under IoT Edge Hub 2020 and go to the IoT Edge area under Automatic Device Management. And now I've created a new device called IoT Edge Device 2. So when I come into here, I want to copy this primary connection string into the clipboard. Now if I come back into my SSH session, I want to edit a file called config.yaml, which is located at etc/IoT Edge. So in order to edit that, I have to type in sudo nano etc IoT Edge config.yaml. Scroll down to the manual provisioning section and update the value of the device connection string with your connection string that you copied to the clipboard. So as you can see, here's the device connection string that needs to be updated. So I can paste in the device connection string and then save the file and exit when we're finished. So Control X, yes, and then just enter. The IoT Edge runtime needs to be restarted to take the changes you made into effect. So this is done with the following command. Give the system a few seconds and then check to see that the Edge Agent module is running on the device. And as you can see, it's running again, so we're good. At this point, we can return to the Azure portal and deploy our simulated temperature sensor module from the Azure Marketplace to our Edge device. So let's go back to the portal. We're looking at IoT Edge Device 2, and let's click Set Modules here, and click Add Marketplace Module. Type in Simulated Temperature Sensor, select it, click on Next Routes to verify that the route is correct. And again, we want all of our messages to go to $upstream, which is our IoT hub, and then click Next Review and Create. The validation is passed. Here's the JSON if you want to review it, and then click Create. So now you can see it says it's successfully updated, and let's just give it a minute or so it deploys to the device. And we can refresh. And notice now that it's simulated, or the simulated temperature sensor now has been deployed to the device. So now we can return to our SSH session and check to make sure that the module has been installed. So if we type sudo IoT Edge list again, you can now see that the Edge hub is running, and so is simulated temperature sensor. And if we want to see the telemetry data going to the cloud, we can do that here as well. And there you can see the telemetry being sent to the cloud. Congratulations! You now know how to deploy a module to an IoT Edge simulated device as well as a real device. If you like this video, please click the like button or leave a comment in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.